Max Whitehead, 0800 This Is Live. And you have Radio Live. If you want to give us a call, it's 0800 844 747, or perhaps you want to text us use the keyword live on 3920. And if you want to email us, studio@radiolive.co.nz. Now, I hope your Monday's going well. I hope you're laying back. I hope you're enjoying it because it's your day off. It's a special long weekend. And you've had a few days off. It's quite a shock to wake up this morning. My alarm went off thinking I had to go to my work as normal. And no, I didn't. So, I mean, I'm cruising here. I don't think I could do anything more enjoyable than I've done today. I've talked about my tea fanatic, and I've actually got on. I really do enjoy my tea from time to time, you know, for a change, but I do have a passion for alcohol, and one happens to be the whiskey. And years ago, my dad used to have it in the cupboard, and I'd sneak up and have a little sniff of it. And even try to put my finger in it and taste it. It tasted like petrol. It smelt like petrol. The vapours off it used to make my eyes water. I had no idea why he'd even drink such a stuff. I'm sure he could have run the lawnmower on it. But as life goes on and the older I've got to really enjoy it. And one time I was I know I'm going on a bit here, Trevor, but I'm going to introduce him in a minute. But I was getting to really enjoy my whiskey. So I went online and I Googled whiskey. And what rolled up was a YouTube of a guy in Auckland who has got a YouTube channel. What he does is tastes all varieties of whiskies and gives his ideas. And I listened and watched this guy and thought, man, does he know what he's talking about? So I actually thought I wouldn't mind because we're having whiskies on Friday night. So I just thought I'd try and track him down. He's in Auckland. Well, he doesn't live far from me. So I got him. I got this hold of the celebrity because he goes all around the globe. I think you've got about 7,000 followers, Trevor Johnson.
That's right, 7,000. But I should clarify, I'm not an expert in the field. I think that's certainly reserved for others.
An aficionado. What do you call yourself?
Yes, certainly. I'm just very, very passionate about whiskey.
I think other people would think that you are an expert. I mean, your descriptions of it sound like an expert, and the people around the world aren't following you for nothing.
True, that's true. I do enjoy it, and it is a passion.
Yeah. So anyway, I got Trevor around on Friday night. He didn't come unarmed. He bought bottles everywhere. And guess what? He's bought 2 bottles into the studio. And I'm going to say this, Bevan's hung about because he's actually got a little tiny sample. So we only got a thimble, but it's straight. There's nothing with it. And Bevan, you know, the refined tea drinker, is hung about because you enjoy whiskey too, don't you, Bevan?
I do. I actually went to a tasting many years ago and fell in love with the Talisker, which I see you've brought, Trevor.
We have.
And also the Kaolila, which is the smoked through peat whiskey. And so, yeah, I'm interested to see what you have to say about this too.
Well, we've got 2 here today. We've got the Irish Bushmills, and it's very, very interesting listening to the tea because you mentioned about the profiles in the tea and even the licorice and the ginger. There's thousands of profiles.
Yeah.
There's also thousands of profiles in whiskey, believe it or not.
Are they similar?
Look, some would say they're similar, but no, they're really not. And what I've done today is brought a little example. We've got Bushmills, which is a sort of on the left of the scale, if you like. It's light, it's fruity, it's very, very easy to drink. It is a 10-year-old single malt. And as Bevan said, he likes the Talisker. We've brought a Talisker. It's also a 10-year-old single malt. However, it's an Islay, it's a Scotch, and it is stronger, oily, smoky. So there is a massive difference in the two, and there's 1,000 in between.
Why are they different? Is one Irish and one's Scottish, is it? Or
well,
what is it?
Different in the process, the same as Bevan mentions about the tea making process. It's exactly the same in the whiskey making process. Whiskey's made from grain.
Right.
Certain grains, the barley, for example, in the Talisker has been smoked in peat and Islay for a certain amount of time. It's been stored right beside the sea in sort of salty climate, beaten against the walls, and it's just taken on a certain profile. Some people could tell you that a certain whiskey, just by the aroma, just by the smell.
No, really? They could tell you where it comes
They
from?
could identify the region, certainly, or identify the whiskey.
Really?
My palate's not quite educated enough to do that, but we are getting closer.
I'm told, this is years ago, because I lived and worked in Scotland up in the North Sea Oil years ago, but and I was told way back then that the water is really important. And, is that your experience?
There is a lot of debate about how important the water is, because there is, a very, very stringent distillation process. Some of it's distilled 3 times, 4 times, twice. However, India is a new world whiskey that's coming on board.
Really? India?
It's fantastic, They're bringing out a lot of whiskies now from India, especially Goa. We've got Paul John, Amrut, and they're selling a lot of whiskey.
Well, Trevor, I could say New Zealand in the early days had a whiskey called Wilson's, and that wasn't exactly something we would have exported as our favourite, most clean. But
Wilson's was a mixing whiskey. It was made in bulk.
Oh, you were here then? Were you living in New Zealand then?
No, but I know the master distiller, who's called Cyril Yates. He lives down in Oamaru.
Right.
And he was heavily involved with Wilson's in the day, way back. In fact, if you had an unopened bottle of Wilson's now, it would be worth several $100s.
Oh,
and
really?
back
Because
in
it's
the day,
collector's
of course,
item.
It was just, something you'd mix
Oh,
with
look,
something else.
the board will be lighting up. I've got some to sell right now. Because most people would, I shouldn't be rude, but they just didn't really do it. And
It's not a great whiskey.
No.
It's just now the prestige of having something from New Zealand way back then in the day. There are a few exciting things happening in New Zealand. We've got the Cadrona distillery, which has opened. Millions and millions of dollars has gone into that. They've brought in...
New Zealand's got its own whiskey coming up.
Yes, absolutely.
right.
Yeah. And there are, you'd call them micro distilleries.
So they're spending millions.
Absolutely.
Who owns this? Is this Kiwis?
No, I can't name the person who owns it, but yes, they are Kiwis. And they have employed a few Scottish people to come over to run the thing, to run the still.
Says the Irish.
And I would say we're probably 8 or 9 years off having a 10-year-old single malt.
Well, let's get back to that. You're Irish.
Yes.
You're saying that Scotsman's been brought in as an expert. How's the rivalry? Because I understand it's like Australia playing New Zealand. There is a bit of friendly rivalry. Do these Scots know what they're doing, Trevor?
They do know what
and have a
they're
glass
doing.
of water.
There's no question. The Scottish know what they're doing, of course. They have a lot more distilleries, hundreds and hundreds of distilleries. Ireland has maybe a dozen. So
you
however,
still haven't commented who's better.
It's being diplomatic. That's great.
There's so much pressure, Max. So much pressure.
Because New Zealand's full of Scots people. I don't want to put you on any pressure.
It does depend on your profile. It really depends. I can't
God,
say
he's
which is
weaseling out of
better.
this one
No,
nicely.
you can't. It's very, very much like tea.
Right.
You could like a whiskey. Some people drink American bourbon, and it's an American whiskey. Some people like the Isles.
Well, a lot
with
of
the
Kiwis
smoke.
do like that. And
Absolutely.
Am I right saying it's a little sweeter?
Yes, it is. Yeah, there's a lot more vanilla, sweet taste. No smoke, no saltiness. It's just a nice, easy
Wait for
drinking
this.
one.
I went online, and this guy was American guy tasting some of the whiskey. He mentioned this. This will make you cringe. I can taste cotton candy, bubble gum. It's kind of waxy. Sweaty shoes, and butterscotch. Sweaty shoes.
I listened to one particular gentleman do a whiskey review who said in the whiskey review that he could taste the freshly cut grass. Now, I don't know the last time
grass.
my lawnmower man was down, but I didn't get down for a little nibble of the grass. I can appreciate someone maybe
I got to say,
in the aroma saying, yes, I can
I love
pick up
I
that.
love the smell. It does bring me to summer, but it doesn't sort of remind me of whiskey. You, Bevan, do you think that this freshly cut? Green tea.
Well, we can get it on the smell, but can we get it on the taste?
Well, the
really?
thing is with, look, consumers, I guess, purchase with their eyes, their nose, and their mouth. And so, the nose and the eyes, you've already decided what it's going to taste like. And so each person, based on their, I guess, experience prior to that tasting, will bring to whatever it is, they're going to taste their things, So if that individual, I guess, smelled cut grass, well, that's what
Yeah,
it
but I
is.
can't imagine drinking cut grass. If you said I've got a tea which is cut grass, I can immediately, my mind now goes to my dad's compost heap.
It depends on how, is it freshly cut grass? Is it 2 days old cut grass?
Well, actually, man, now I'm thinking about it. At the bottom of the compost heap used to go this black syrupy stuff.
Yeah.
And be the last thing in the world I'd want to drink, I must say. Getting back to
You mentioned
whiskey.
earlier about the, with the tea, you mentioned about mood.
Yes.
And I think mood plays a very, very big part in
absolutely.
what type of whiskey you're going to like at any one time. I have about 30 to 40 bottles of opened whiskey on my shelf.
He
at any
never
time.
invites me
Does that
round,
mean-
Bevan. He just doesn't
Yeah, yeah.
invite me
Oh,
round.
you've been around, Max. Come on.
So does that mean you've got 30 different moods?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I do get my favourites, which I keep going back to.
We should have your wife here, I think, interviewing her about your moods.
Oh, she knows nothing about this, Max. Don't be saying anything
Oh,
at
right.
all.
No.
Does she look
secret.
at the consumption rate of a certain type of whiskey to assess what mood you're in?
No, not absolutely not, absolutely not. But it is funny because sometimes I would go for an Islay whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Other times I'm just not in the mood for an Islay whiskey, so I'll go something to maybe a soft, fruity, Irish type of easy drinking whiskey.
Yeah.
I've been drinking whiskey probably only about 7 or 8 years now, and I really limited my beer consumption. I was drinking a lot of beer. I wanted to stop drinking as much beer, so I actually got into single malts.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into the single malts, you want to experience some of the different profiles.
Yes, that's how I sort of
Yeah, and whiskey
into it.
is certainly on the up. What's also on the up is they call them the NAS, no age statement whiskies. So they don't have to be 10 years old. They can be anything from 3 years old to 5 years old, and they're mixing them with different profiles. Jameson, an Irish
Yes.
company, put out Caskmate range. It's only about $50, and it's excellent.
Right.
It's creamy, smooth, soft. So yeah, it's good.
Actually, what we're going to do later on, what I'm fascinated with is that there's a lot, the demographic of people drinking whiskey. So later on, I'm going to ask Levi to contact a caller who's a young lady who's drinking it, and I'd be interested to understand why she's starting to drink whiskey. Have you got any thoughts on? Because I mean, whiskey's become so popular. Why is that?
I'm not actually very sure why, but I know that there is a lot more available, a lot bigger range of whiskey. I think people are, as the tea, they're starting to experiment in different flavours.
Yeah, people are
And
becoming
I
more
think,
discerning.
you know, if there's different flavours of whiskey coming out, different profiles of whiskey coming out, people are trying them.
Well, that's actually, it's good Bevan stuck around, because I think that word discerning is it, because people are now their food, their whiskey, their tea,
yeah.
but more importantly, their food.
Yeah.
And wine. Obviously, wine started it off, people becoming more and more discerning. And I think that's really where it's sort of coming in. And I'm absolutely amazed. And people enjoy it, having an opinion about something, particularly food.
Yeah.
But now it's drifting on into all these other beverages as well, which I think it's probably good for us all.
I think I'm also using the whiskey as a little bit of a treat for me personally. As you know,
Yes, that's
Max,
what I
I've
do
lost,
too.
17, 18 kilos this
He's
year
a different
so
man.
far.
It's true. I just want to say that, just stop there, because I think I high regard for this guy. 17, 18 kilograms is just a huge amount of weight to lose.
Yeah.
While promoting whiskey. It can't be easy, because whiskey put weight on. Is it sugary, or is it?
Whiskey won't actually put weight on. It's actually, the carbs are very, very low, and certainly won't take weight off, but it won't put it on.
It won't put it on.
No.
Ah, okay. Oh, that's good. Because my friend keeps saying, Maxie, you think you would drinking whiskey, you're not going to put weight on. Well, it's not true.
No, well, I've managed to continue the weight loss with having a little bit of whiskey. Not too much, but a little bit.
Yep. And that's what I do as well. So don't over-consume. Now, look, tell me something. Is people are very embarrassed now. They come to my house and say, can I have some water, Max, to put with my whiskey? Some are even more embarrassed, saying, have you got any lemonade or Coke I can put with it? What's your thoughts on that? Is that sacrilege and destruction of a real good product, or what's your thoughts?
Again, there's a different school of thought. I think, quite honestly, you do what you want to do. If you want to drink your whiskey with water, Max, drink it. If you want to put diet lemonade in, just do it. Whatever you want. I don't think you should let anyone tell you how you should drink your whiskey.
On that note, what a fantastic statement. We're going to go to a break just now, so we'll just cut to that. Well, great statement to finish off on.
Easter afternoons with Max Whitehead. 0800 This Is Live.
Well, here we are at Radio Live on, if you want to give us a call, it's 0800 844 747. Do you want to text us? 3920, keywords live. Or you can email us on studio@radiolive.co.nz. For a Monday afternoon, I hope you're relaxing. So relax with Max, as they say, but I'm sitting here rather enjoying it. I've got a little sip of whiskey. I must admit it's a thimble. We're not overdoing it. I've got my previous guest is lingering because he's got a little sample now too. I can't get rid of Bevan because I thought he was into tea, but obviously enjoy it. And these two guys are really getting on fine. So mixing tea with whiskey, we might have to talk about that.
Yeah. So on that note, what's interesting is earlier we spoke about kawakawa.
Yep.
And look, kawakawa helps digestion and is an anti-inflammatory. And on our website, and believe me, I didn't script this prior, it says here, the addition of licorice root imparts gentle sweetness that rounds the taste and brings everything together in perfect harmony. Got a cold? Just add honey and a dash of whiskey.
Oh, man, that's just... It fits well.
So tea and whiskey, ginger kawakawa with a dash of whiskey.
Fantastic.
So I guess you were talking about mixing earlier.
What I'm going to be doing now is asking you to get that tea bag out, dip it into Trevor's whiskey, and we'll let him decide. Trevor, are you up for that?
Yeah. Well, it's the age-old recipe, isn't it? For a spoonful of honey, whiskey, hot water, a hot toddy.
Yeah,
great for a cold, and I can see how it would work with the...
Now, just for the listeners' sake, I just made that comment before that whiskey really is penetrating the marketplace and growing in popularity enormously. And we've got New Zealand's, famous YouTuber who's actually got over 7,000 followers around the globe. But I was in a shop recently and I met this very professional young lady. She's attractive. She's very got a lot of finesse. And I just was quite intrigued with her. Now, she was selling me tea because she works to Bevan as well. But Renee Blundell was her name. And I just happened to say, well, actually, I do really getting into, tasting teas, but I also drink whiskey and I enjoy. And she butted in. She said, so do I. I said, really? So I've got her. She's on the line now, folks. Hello, are you there, Renee?
Hello, I'm here.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Not a problem. It's good to be here.
Well, I bet you wish you were in the studio because Trevor's sharing out little thimblefuls of whiskey.
Yeah, I'm feeling very jealous right now. I'm down in Hamilton, Mystery Creek, and just in the scorching heat, and it's, a bit of whiskey would be great right now.
Well, what are we? What is the time? It's 1:27 in the afternoon, so perfect time to start drinking. Well, we shouldn't encourage you. How old are you?
I'm 24.
24. And you're enjoying whiskey. You're the last person I thought would be enjoying whiskey because I imagined, smoky rooms with villains and probably a gun on the table and real hard men. But you're such a petite, lovely person. I was quite blown away. So what is it about whiskey and how did you get to sort of have a sample to get into it?
Well, I was trying to think about it today, and what really sparked my interest in whiskey was I got back to a memory of when I was doing the Milford track in the South Island.
Yeah.
And one of my mates that was on the track with us, he had a hip flask, obviously. And just at the end of the day, it was so...